call the roll?
Kinsey.
Here.
Klein.
Here.
Mossberg.
Here.
Parker.
Here.
Loxton.
All right.
Second.
Everybody review the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Will you call the roll?
Parker.
Yes.
Klein.
Yes.
Mossberg.
Yes.
Kinsey.
Yep. Reports. We have a city council report this evening.
Well, I do. I think everybody has probably been made aware, but we are going to be beginning another search for a city manager. Angelica has tendered her resignation, so we appreciate everything she's done for us the last couple of years or longer. And but you know we've got a lot of work to do as a city, and city council had a special meeting last week to kind of outline our steps and processes that we're going to follow for the current executive search. The plan is to have a committee comprised of citizens, council members, and employees to kind of facilitate the process of reviewing resumes, applications, and that sort of thing to make that, hopefully expedite that process. The composition of that will be 3 city council members, 3 members of the public at large, and 1 employee. Angelica and I will both sit on that without, a vote, but just as ad hoc members. Prior to that, we will have a kind of a strategic planning, a mini strategic planning session, which we, coming out of that, we want to identify the needs that we're wanting to fulfill when we start evaluating the city council candidates. So that's all coming up. That's little strategy session is going to be on 20.
Oh no, I have to look at it. I think 25th maybe.
It's not the 25th.
Oh, it's not. It's the 4th.
The 4th. Okay. That was as quick as we could get it to occur, but we will be working with the Oklahoma Municipal League to go through this process and make sure we get a good cast out there for potential candidates, and we'll go from there. Other than that, we are also planning our budget retreat. We have not set the date just yet, but we're looking.
The 19th.
We are looking.
That's what we had discussed.
Yes, we're looking at the 19th of March to make that happen. Backing up a little bit, Angelica's last day is June 1st, unless we're able to move forward more quickly. But we'll have her till June 1st if we need her. She's told me that she's got vacation time if she needs to use it. So, but that I think will conclude my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So I would interject just some of the conversation that you and I had. Mayor Parker had asked questions on the financial statements. If you look at the front page of the financial statements, it talks about the loan, or it shows the loan balance from the city of Alva is $203,000. Well, if you remember, that is actually our balance in pooled cash for the airport. The reason that's so low is because we have paid for, at the end of January, we had paid for 90% of the project for the airport, or the apron expansion project, and we had not been reimbursed. We have, earlier in February, we received $579,000 to reimburse us for that 90% of the project. So we won't be able to receive that final 10% until we work with Park Hill to sign the closeout documents and get everything completed and finalized, so it'll take a little bit longer to get that money back than what it did to get the first 90% back. But it is in there, so if you would, obviously there would be some fluctuations there, but if you add another $579,000 to that balance, that is really the loan balance, or the pooled cash balance at the end of January. We still have been continuing to set aside the 5% of sales tax as our repayment amount for the loan to the airport. So that still continues, but just wanted to clarify that so that when you were looking at it, if there were any questions.
Anybody have anything for Kelly? So is out of curiosity, prior to Angelica, is the vetting process for city manager different than was the other previous two managers?
The vetting process?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the vetting process was prior to Jodon, or prior to Angelica. Honestly, Jodon was hired prior to my election. We're going to have the municipal league on our behalf do a comprehensive social media history on any candidate, comprehensive news, search on any candidate, and then, with the municipal league, if it's a person that's been involved with the municipal league, they're going to have some knowledge as to, what their, maybe some more information about the candidates that might not necessarily pull up in a search. But I think the first step is we want to kind of identify what we're looking for in a candidate before we, send out, post the position.
So does Oklahoma Municipal League, is their information mainly just from the state of Oklahoma, or do they do surrounding states as well?
Well, they're able to reach out to other organizations in other states, but in the way things are, Oklahoma is the only state in the nation whose municipalities are only able to use sales tax for operating revenue. So they try to stick to people that have Oklahoma experience, but we're not going to stick to people that have city business manager experience. So we just want people from, more or less, we want people, if they do have a city manager background, that they have that in Oklahoma, because it's going to be quite a bit different. But other than that, I think we're going to be, and like I said, council hasn't met with them to, what are we looking for in a candidate, but it would seem that we're pretty open-minded, that it doesn't necessarily have to be someone that's been a business manager somewhere else.
Okay, so we'll move on to the airport manager's report.
January ended up being a pretty good month. I kind of had my doubts towards the middle of the month, but we ended up with $33,841.50 in fuel sales and oil and hangar rent. So, like I said, kind of the beginning was busy, then it tapered off, and the last 2 weeks were pretty busy. We had several helicopters land here for fuel, both low lead and Jet A, so that was kind of interesting. I enjoy the helicopters. They're fun to watch land and come in, but they're kind of a pain of fuel, but that doesn't make them any less interesting to have land here. The street department started crack sealing. I think they're pretty much finishing up, I do believe, but they've got all that stuff. They did a really good job. It looks good up there. We had quite a bit of windy days in January, so matter of fact, there was a pretty good windy day that blew our windsocks off, so I had to retrieve them and put them back on. So they ended up pretty well south of the airfield, though. And then, of course, I replaced the lights on the tetrahedron, so those are going on now. I kept forgetting about it, but finally remembered. Northwest Electric came, got our 220 working on the outside here, so we could use our GPU now. There was still a good sized snowdrift over there, and the ground was still soft, so they couldn't trench for the receptacle out that way. So once they get time, and they'll come back out and trench that in. That's the kind of one that's a little more important because it's in a better spot for a jet to park and use the GPU. The surveyors were here the 9th and 10th to survey for the upcoming taxi project, so they got all their stuff surveyed and done in a couple of days. So I think last month's report had issues with the white Buick, so I had taken care of that. Once I put the oil in and other stuff, that part was fixed, but it has an issue with pulling to the right. It's real choppy when you try to turn. So I took it in, actually had the appointment this morning. All 4 tires are separated. And while they were under there, they said the front end looked good. It's just all, the tires are 11 years old. So I guess sitting, then they just kind of are separated. So these 4 new tires, and then the coolant leak that it had. I think the quote came up to $843.32, something like that. So that'll be done Friday. Be ready Saturday morning. So. Last I had an update on the avgas truck is he had it going, and then he said he overlooked an issue maybe that is still backfiring, so he's still trying to get on top of that backfire. And there's parts missing out of the carburetor, which I don't know how that happened. I guess it was rattling so much it shook itself loose, I don't know. But so we should be possibly getting that back the beginning of next week. And I've yet to get a response back. I called Williams Electric on the runway lights, and they kind of gave me a rundown on, they've had a list of what they did, what's needed to be done, and we sent it to the engineer, so I never did get, of course I just sent that email Friday, so I haven't got the response back on really what the plan is on that, so.
From purple or?
So that's it for me.
On the accounts that are overdue, did anybody look into that? We talked about that last time.
Yeah, we've got letters in there.
Okay. So what we have is accurate, because there was questions whether it was accurate or not. It was accurate. All right. You want to continue to
Go ahead, I'm going to work out there.
Okay. We are at number 5, update from committee reviewing future airport needs. You can talk too, but we met, we discussed a lot of options, we're doing some research, and that's about where we're at this point. There was no decisions made or no recommendations to bring. If anybody has any input, feel free to talk to us. limits, we need to set another meeting date. Meet again. Was that time good
Yeah, that time worked.
on a Friday at, what, 8:30?
Yeah.
Was it?
And I think it's timely, we, of course, as we talked before, getting it going, but I think we've had good discussion to set the framework of what we're gonna be looking at, so.
Okay. Anybody have any questions of the committee? Three of us were there, it was Gary, and Caleb, and me.
It was fun with the sick kid that day.
We were playing hooky.
Yes.
I missed you.
Number 6, discussion and action to approve purchase of new lobby furniture.
So I had talked to Dale, reached out to him, so we had received an anonymous donation of $10,000 specifically for furniture for the airport. And so took a little bit for us to bring it back to the airport board. I wanted to make sure we followed the appropriate guidelines from our auditors, and after visiting with them, felt like it should go into the airport fund as opposed, we have a donation fund that we use through the city as well, and so I wanted to make sure I used it to put it in the appropriate fund. So we put it in the airport fund, and so then it would have to meet the requirements for the airport and spending limits. And so that what Derek has gathered up is over his $5,000 spending limit. I asked him to provide some pictures. I think he just went and used his best judgment on the things that we needed. And so, we wanted to bring it back to you, obviously, because it is above his spending limit. And at the time, I put the agenda together. I didn't have the quote with me, but you can see that he did include a quote from G&G for, and he's also supplied some pictures as well.
Should probably get a color printer.
So the furniture that we're looking at here, where's it going?
These tables and chairs would be replaced. The pilot lounge furniture would be replaced. These chairs in here in the conference room would be replaced.
And you said you didn't have a picture of
I
those.
didn't have a picture of
They're
those.
similar to what we have in city council chambers.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, and then there, adding stuff up, there was enough that we could replace that refrigerator, because it's something a little bit bigger to put some of the concession items in there, such sandwich stuff and the water pop and everything.
So we received 10,000 in donation, and the total is 64.54 for all the items that you.
Yeah, plus the 7 something for the
Says here, 849.
849 at the bottom. 749 up here, but I think with
oh, yeah,
This is all at local at G&G.
yeah.
If not any other discussion, I'll make a motion.
Wait a minute,
Okay.
wait a minute. Why are we going with counter height tables and chairs?
Well, they're all about 30s. They're about the same.
They are this, they're not.
No, they're not that. They're this size.
They're this?
right
Are you
here.
But they
sure?
look similar.
Are you sure?
Right
Because
here.
they're showing high.
No, we went over the dimensions. Those chairs, they're 30,
Because it says bar stools.
Well, it says counter height here on the.
I know. It says counter height, but we measured, they're the same, if not maybe a couple inches higher than those, but they're not like that.
Okay. Because it's based on past experience. I don't know what it's like now. Based on past experience, we get an older crowd in here when we have meets and stuff. And they can't handle that counter height stuff. And my other question was, if these are the chairs, are they durable enough to last over a period of time? Because, I mean, like, these are solid chairs. When you start getting into these tubular things, sometimes and these may be heavy duties, the tubes are not thick walled enough to take a beating in a commercial setting. This is more of a residential setup than a commercial setup.
Yeah, that's the question I was gonna ask. Are they heavy-duty commercial grade, or are they a household grade?
Yeah.
There's a big difference, huge difference.
I mean, this was used when we got it, I think. I don't remember, but you gotta have stuff that's durable, because this stuff was shoved and moved around. People use it for work desks and the
So-
chairs.
I understand we've got a donation for this, but there are, and they don't belong to anybody, they weren't a cost to the city, but when the Homestead purchased their dining room tables years back, it was a special order, and they sent us the wrong tabletops. And rather than return them, they said keep them because they couldn't sell them. So we've got tabletops that just need bases.
Are they, it's Homestead?
They're in the shipping container out back.
I think I remember putting those together.
Yeah. They don't have rounded corners, they're square corners. That's why that's the part we didn't want at the Homestead. But out here, I don't know that I'm as worried
Sometimes you
about.
get little kids and that would, be a concern. But, I'm not against upgrading the furniture and I appreciate the work you've done on it, Derek. I just want to make sure that whatever we're purchasing is durable. I mean, these have obviously been durable because they have lasted since the terminal was built. Was it 93, Dale?
Yeah, I think some of these chairs were actually from the old terminal. The tables were not, but I think the chairs were from the old terminal.
Because the thing I'd hate is for you to have to go into the chair repair business and do maintenance on that.
I would hate to think we're gonna keep tables and chairs for another 30 years again.
Right,
I mean-
well, I understand, but you see my point.
Yeah.
And I just, when I saw this picture, I was concerned about the height, mainly for the older crowd. They can't always handle that, or even get into the seat. And then second was the tubular nature of the chairs.
I
was concerned with.
sat in some chairs that were similar to that, and they were actually pretty comfortable, and they seemed pretty solid, but I don't.
But that's a question we could definitely ask.
Right, yeah.
The
So-
this room table in there is, I don't know how old, and
And
you can't destroy it. I mean, that's it.
I did, yeah, I did.
I mean, it's a heavy-duty commercial. You can drive a truck over it, I don't think, and
Right,
hurt it.
yeah.
But you weren't intending
I would-
either to replace that one?
But, but that's the difference between a super heavy-duty
Oh, I see what you're
commercial.
I don't think they make anything
They don't
like
make
that
it,
nowadays.
we can't afford to buy something like that. So,
Yeah, I didn't figure that would want to be replaced anyways, because it probably came from.
So this is the total of what we've got so far, is between this and the 800. So, even if you went back to them, you still got a $2,700 budget based off of the 10,000 that we could upgrade to more industrial grade stuff. So there's still a little bit of flexibility there in the budget.
Right.
Based on what's there, so.
So how do we want to handle this? Do we want to, increase the spending limit for this purchase, or do we want the items to come back in front of us?
You mean a sample?
Yeah, do we want to, I don't necessarily mean samples, but counter height,
That's ambiguous.
and the chairs also, I think we probably, after hearing Paul's concerns, I almost want to see it before the money's spent.
yeah.
Is that,
I mean, I have
I'm
no
not
problem.
trying to slow things down.
I have no problem with the refrigerator and the sofas and those types of things. But I think these other things, they're so heavy. Everybody sits in these. Everybody uses these. I just want to make sure that whoever donated the money, if they come in here, they see that, that we bought things, that they would be happy with.
Well, do we want to approve those things then, the sofa and
And there was a desk chair, right?
Exceeds
The board chairs
The boardroom chairs.
and the
the-
refrigerator.
What the boardroom chairs look like?
You didn't have a picture of
We didn't have a picture because they had to go to a special site at the store, but they're like the
They're similar?
the
The-
council.
the new ones that we
Yeah,
purchased?
Yeah, the new ones in the council chamber.
Okay.
Are they a fixed height also?
No, they're adjustable.
So how long will that last?
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? You want the pistons running out in those things in a couple of years.
That's these home office chairs,
Mhm.
so they're not a commercial grade chair either.
home?
They
Yes.
say here it specifies that they're home
Oh, home
office chairs.
office, okay.
They're not a commercial grade chair there either.
But this is the chair that's at the chamber.
They're
It's not the
similar, they're not the
exact
exact same, because we ordered ours through
So they-
Maryland's.
Okay, they look the same, but they're not the same, okay.
When you start getting commercial, then, I mean, how much did those chairs cost altogether?
They were about $300 a piece, between $250 and $300 a piece.
I think if we got the money to do it, we need to get the most we can for it.
So it may be worthwhile to bring back the lobby furniture and the boardroom chairs to make sure that we've got enough to cover that before we would do the other things. I mean, or do you want to go ahead and do the couch and the recliner and the fridge? I don't care either way, I'm just wanting to make sure we're clear.
I'm happy going ahead and purchasing the sofa and the refrigerator. But the things that would be used frequently, because we have pilots and the ground schooling that's occurring, and other people meet in there and use these chairs. We have a variety of people that use the tables and chairs out here that we know where we're going with that before we approve that purchase.
If we were to approve those items and then find out that the tables and chairs in there cost a total to be over $10,000, do we want to wait altogether?
Are we in a rush? Let's approve refrigerator and the sofa, and let's get more information, and hopefully the next
No, that's
meeting.
what I'm asking is, refrigerator and sofa is $2,000. So if the rest of the furniture comes in over $8,000, are you okay with spending over $10,000
Oh,
altogether?
I see what you're saying. I didn't understand your question. I missed a gap in there. No, I would have no problem with that.
Okay.
I would rather do that and have something that lasts, that's not a maintenance nightmare. We have to worry about somebody flipping over backwards because the piston broke or something like that, than to sit here and buy something that we're only going to get a short life out of, potentially. I mean, there's other board members here, they can help vote me on that, but that's my opinion.
So it sounds like more your immediate need is that refrigerator. I mean, literally the sound of it, that's more the immediate need.
So we need a motion to approve the
I'll
couches
move,
and the
I'll move
refrigerator.
to approve $849 for the refrigerator from G&G as presented, and $1,299 for the sofa from G&G as presented.
Just curious, I didn't realize G&G did
Appliances?
appliances. Do they do maintenance on them also?
Yep.
Is there a second?
I'll second it since you're acting chairman. And I get to vote on something.
You don't get to do that very often, Dale.
I know.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we purchase the refrigerator and sofa. Correct. You want a roll call? Call roll.
Parker,
Yes.
Logston,
Yes.
Mossberg,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Kinsey,
Yes. Right, discussion and action enter into executive session pursuant to 25:0.S.307. B1, to discuss the evaluation of the airport manager.
Move we enter executive session.
Second.
You call roll, please.
Parker,
Yes.
sorry, I missed 2 seconds.
Aye.
Mossberg,
Yes.